We got a great topic, one of our annuals, one of our traditions here in LawCall, the week of Valentine's Day. That's right, it's Love and the Law. That's right, we're going to be talking about all the stuff that you need to know, as he does every Saturday night in one form or another. Your friend and my friend, Mr. Matthew Mestayer.
Kenny.
Did you have a good Valentine's Day?
As always.
Good,
I was taking kids to practice.
Yes,
and
that's lovely.
So, yeah, I got
one of the things, one of the topics we have done literally since we started the show all those years ago. Great topic for us every year.
Kenny, you know, if this show is a public service, and I hope it is, there's really no more topic that's probably more pertinent to people than this topic, because so many folks, you know, good or bad, you know, this is their kind of view of the law. They're in a chancery court proceeding, which is where, you know, things like this occur, where, you know, cases like this are heard, you know, child custody, divorce, which not are always bad, Kenny. Sometimes that's a good thing, but also adoption, things like that. So, you know, this is where kind of the rubber meets the road for a lot of people in the legal system, and rightfully so, because when you're embroiled in something like this, you know, it's an all-life, all-encompassing kind of issue. So we hope to get a lot of calls. It's one of our best shows. Normally, this is a show we could not do just 30 minutes, do an hour.
Yeah, we could.
But don't worry, we're just going to do 30 minutes.
Only doing 30 minutes. One of our panelists.
Absolutely. We have a returning guest with us. We have Diane Ellis. She's a fabulous family lawyer. She does great work. She does adoptions, divorce, does everything in Chancery Court. She does it well, and happy to have her back on the show again.
Diane, always a pleasure. I think this is your fourth time here.
Third time.
Really do appreciate it, as always, and you brought your husband along. We appreciate him being here as well on this
set. With me.
He's a good guy. We appreciate him coming well on this Saturday night as well. Did you have a nice Valentine's Day?
We did.
Good. Anyway, Diane, family law is something you've done a little bit of everything with. What have you seen in the recently over the years? What is a dynamic that's changed in family law in your practice and amongst your peers?
There are more adoptions going on, I think.
Yeah.
There are more guardianships.
Yes.
We see more and more grandparents, aunts, uncles, other family members that are having custody of children. For one reason or another, the parents can't take care of the children, so we see more and more of those going on.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can see that in regular life too, can't you?
Sure.
Email question of the week, and comes from Alex. This one's a little long. Y'all bear with me here. My insurance company paid my medical bills from an accident, and now that I've settled my case, they want their money back. What? Yep, Alex, it happens. It seems totally unfair. Can they do that? Matt? Interesting. So he had an accident, gets the settlement, insurance company says,
yes,
we need money back.
Now, every insurance policy, Kenny, whether it's healthcare or whatever, has what's called a right of subrogation inside the policy. And essentially what that says is if they pay something, a medical bill or something, doesn't have to be medical, be property damage. If they pay something on your behalf as per your policy, well, if it turns out, lo and behold, that you then seek recovery from another source because somebody caused your accident, either in a car wreck or another source, and you get money, they say, oh, contractually, you've given us the right to take that money back, you know.
Wow.
So you can't double recovery.
I see.
And so that's a very common, but I tell you what's interesting, let me kind of hit on this. We're seeing a lot in, because we do a lot, of course, auto accident litigation, we're seeing a lot when folks go to the hospital with insurance that some hospitals are not putting the bills on their insurance. They're not billing their insurance company. And the reason seems to be is that, as you know, insurance companies negotiate a very low rate for reimbursement. And so there, you know, for example, just an X-ray may be $1,000 if you have to pay cash, but if you have insurance, they only get, say, $100 back. And so what happens is they're not putting it on insurance, and then they're waiting till the case settles, and then they're trying to kind of intervene or get in the lawsuit to get kind of more money for the hospitals.
Right.
And I tell you, it puts a lot of stress on folks because usually, you know, they get collection calls, dunning calls, and they're like, but I have insurance, I have health insurance, I have car insurance. Why are the bills not getting paid? So it's something. Actually, we do a show kind of on this, and it's a great show because it's something we're seeing. You didn't see this 10 years ago, but you see it now, and it's a real problem.
To a serious note here, we did have a caller just call in, and I just want to, they're a minor, so we didn't want to put them on the air, but they had a very serious question. Their question is about, unfortunately, abuse. They feel like she feels like her parents are being physically abusive to her. What steps does she have legally? Of course, there's the whole, you know,
The first thing I
Sure.
would suggest that she do is go to a school counselor.
Yeah.
Also, there is the CPS, the Child Protective Services. They have a hotline. I would call the Child Protective Services hotline.
Okay.
If the child feels like she's being abused or he's being abused, then that child absolutely should report it.
I think the school counselor is a great suggestion.
Absolutely.
Good,
Or a
confidential.
teachers, medical professionals, school counselors are all mandatory reporters. So those are great resources to go to
Matt,
for
your
a
thoughts?
child.
It's pretty serious.
Yeah, absolutely, and Diane's exactly right. I hope that child does that, and we'll maybe reach out off air after the show and make sure they kind of get some. I'd like to talk to that person, make sure they're well handled. But of course, there's a police side of it as well, if the abuse. But I would definitely go with Diane's advice. I'd start with there, but I'd certainly want the police involved as soon as I could as well.
And the child could also have, reach out through an adult family member to an attorney as well.
Is 911 bad advice or bad information?
I don't think it's bad advice at all. I mean, quite frankly, hard to know what kind of, but I would do anything I can to fix that situation. So absolutely.
As quickly as possible.
As quickly as possible.
All right.
Whatever
Anyway,
that
just wanted to be sensitive now and talk to Tristan. Tristan, thank you for your patience. Really do appreciate it. What can we help you with?
Hello, Tristan.
I wanted to know, if I didn't get a prenup whenever I get married, would there be a possible way to get the money back?
Tristan, if we heard you right, if you didn't get a prenup before the wedding, can you kind of go
Yes,
backwards?
sir.
Okay.
You can do an annuptial agreement, which is essentially a prenup after you're married. And you can do that at any time during the marriage.
And Diane, what's it called again?
An antenuptial agreement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is
Pre
this
being before, ante being
anti?
After.
A-N-T,
After.
yes.
After the prenup. After
So,
marriage.
yeah.
Is this something Tristan can do on his own, or should he go see an attorney?
I would see an attorney. I would
Okay.
see an attorney for that, yeah. But we do those on a fairly regular basis. Sometimes when you get married, you don't have any assets.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no point in doing a prenuptial agreement. And then, as the marriage progresses, maybe one party or the other develops some assets, maybe inherits,
Mm-hmm.
or, gets, some other settlements, that kind of thing, and becomes relevant at that point to do an antenuptial agreement. So you can certainly do that.
Matt, so there's a device.
Prenups kind of have a bad rap.
Yeah.
Kenny, you always hear that. Oh, prenup. It's going to go. And the thing is, it's a contract, and it's basically an anticipatory division of assets, and it can be a fair division of assets. A prenup doesn't mean one party gets to keep everything and the other party gets nothing. It's not what it means. It's just a contract, and so the parties can make full disclosure on what the assets are, and they can come to reasonable terms. And usually in a prenup, both sides are going to be represented by separate lawyers. So, hopefully the lawyers will advise their clients about the state of the law, and so it's a fair agreement. And there can be ranges, of course. So what that does, it cuts off, or tries to cut off, or can cut off litigation at the end. So if there is a separation or a breakup, you're not fighting over it. You have it written down. You have an agreement in place. You can look to that. People still fight over that too, but it does lessen the litigation,
Kind of
which helps.
takes the edge
Right,
off.
and it can make it can make any potential future divorce much more pleasant.
Right. Best as you can.
Less
contentious?
Less contentious,
All right,
yes.
very good. All right.
Which is always a good thing.
Tristan, hope that helps out. Sounds like you do have an option there for after the marriage, and it sounds like probably calling an attorney like Diane or someone who does family law probably would be the best way to go for you in that sense. But thank you so much for the call tonight. I was just checking during the commercial break. They're watching the show right now.
I thought you were posting a picture of yourself.
Well, I was doing that. I was doing that too.
As usual.
But yeah, as usual. Right there. But anyway, this one's interesting. I'm going to kind of read and talk at the same time. This one's kind of a catch-22, Diane. You're going to like this one. We're going to call her Rachel. I was writing in, Facebook friend on the page. And what's going on here is her friend's husband is way behind on alimony by the tune of thousands of dollars. He is now declaring bankruptcy and then going to talk to the judge about lowering his alimony. She does have an attorney, which is the good news, but the attorney says that she can't go represent her now unless she gets $3,000 to go back to court. And so she's kind of in this catch-22. She doesn't have the alimony, but she needs a lawyer, obviously, to go take care of all of this. Wants to know, do y'all have any insight into what she needs to do?
I'll let Diane take a first shot at that, and I'll come in and clean up.
Well, that was pretty clean. Did you get all that?
Yeah, I
Okay,
got that.
okay,
I got that. Failure to pay the alimony is contempt of court. If it's contempt of court, then the attorney is entitled to some attorney fees, so she may be able to find somebody to help her with that a little bit, as far as getting her, giving her a little discount on the front end.
Right.
any domestic judgment is not dischargeable in bankruptcy.
Okay.
So he's not going to be able to discharge the alimony that's already owed.
I see.
It's already accrued. Whether or not he can lower his alimony is going to depend on whether he can prove that there's been a material change in circumstances, that it wasn't voluntary. In other words, it wasn't through his bad actions.
Right.
If he has had a loss of income because he's been
injured, or
well, if he's been injured, then that wouldn't be his fault. But if he's had the loss of income because he hasn't performed his job well,
I see.
or he's decided, I don't want to be a doctor anymore, I want to go be a plumber,
right,
that kind of thing, that's not going to lower his alimony.
Right.
So as far as trying to find an attorney to do it without paying attorney fees on the front end, that's more problematic. Because much like everybody else, we don't like to work for free.
Sure. Well, I can see how this is a real catch-22 here.
Oh, yeah. Let me kind of jump on two things I want to talk about related to that. First is what Diane's talking about is the bankruptcy. The bankruptcy code, the purpose of that is to kind of wipe away a lot of debt, okay? So, but the code itself says you can't come to bankruptcy with an alimony and try to get out of your alimony, child support. Those are what's called non-dischargeable debt. That does not get discharged or wiped away in the bankruptcy. So that's not going to be kind of a safe haven. And the second thing is, and it's really, I tell you, probably the biggest other issue in a divorce is the cost of a divorce.
Sure.
I mean, that keeps so many people I know that maybe should get a divorce or would like to get a divorce, they can't afford to get a divorce.
Right.
Lawyers are expensive, and the fighting is expensive,
Sure.
when you're fighting over this and that, it's just, and it is, and it really has a major impact, big impact on what happens in the divorce, the quality of the divorce, and the ultimate resolution is, quite frankly, the expense. People don't have the money, or one party does, the other party doesn't, and it's a real issue in divorces. Yeah.
Matt, but from what you and Diane are saying to me, it doesn't sound like she can probably go to front of the divorce judge and the bankruptcy judge without some sort of representation here. It'd be tough, wouldn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, it's fairly complicated to kind of work through, but the good news is, as Diane mentioned, is that in those kind of facts, she's in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
And so she'll probably, hopefully, be able to find someone to help her.
Maybe call her attorney again on Monday and say, look, I need you.
Well, yeah, that.
I need to work with me.
And the fact is, if he is in contempt for not paying it, then he is going to end up eventually having to reimburse her attorney fees.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
that
that's
is
something to
hot
consider.
off of Facebook right now.
Nice.
Super fast on your question. We're going to get you in before the end of the show.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me make it quick. My daughter lost her children, and they were put up for adoption.
Okay.
All right. And now the adoptive parents decided they didn't want one of them, and they brought them back to us.
Okay.
Her back to us. And we go Wednesday to get guardianship of her because they don't want to be financially responsible for her at all.
I see.
And I want to know what to expect Wednesday.
Andy, great question.
That's a great question.
Diane?
I would imagine if they are wanting you to have a guardianship and you're wanting to have a guardianship, you should not have a problem with that. I would think a judge would sign off on that quick, fast, and in a hurry, because the judge is going to want to do what's best for the child. And it sounds like what's best for the child is for you to have a guardianship. So I don't think you should have any problem with that at all.
Diane, should she bring any legal help with her or have somebody on the phone ready to jump in here, or is this something she can do on her own? Could be right.
Yeah, I don't. Without knowing more facts of the case, I don't know. But I would suspect this. If you get there to court and you're going to need an attorney, ask the judge for time to get an attorney.
Okay.
And the judges will usually grant that without a problem.
Gotcha. Matthew?
Yeah, guardianships are kind of a tool that's becoming more and more popular. It's basically where the courts kind of insert sometimes a blood relative, sometimes a third party to kind of be responsible for usually some aspect of a child's. Sometimes it's litigation, sometimes it's school, sometimes it's this, that, and the other, or sometimes it's very broad. But it's something we're seeing kind of more and more. The courts are kind of inserting people to kind of, to help kind of be responsible for kids and help them through the process.
Candy, thank you so much for the question tonight. Sorry we don't have a little bit more time. Sounds like it hopefully will go smooth. Here on LawCall, we're going to be talking about fighting the insurance company with Jim Reeves. But until then, my friends, good night.